French? Okay.
Actually, the area you grew
I
up,
liked
it's
it.
very nice.
You have to take French because
Alrighty, good evening. I apologize for my tardiness. The time is about 6:10, July 18th. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Before coming out into the general session, we're going to be reviewing the cases in pre-session. The general session will start at 6:30. So with that, I'm going to adjourn to our work session.
Take a deep breath.
I know.
Don't worry, we're fine.
We've been chilling here, waiting for our fearless leader.
Not a big deal. We're good.
Okay, alrighty.
you have a meeting.
Yes, okay, so, this is all, are we good? Okay, so we'll start with the roll call of the workshop with the, please respond when I call your name. I'm Edmund Haas, Chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Vice Chairman Portman.
Present.
Commissioners, sorry, Sue Blankenship,
Present.
Kent Halfeman,
Present.
Cindy Bishop,
Here.
and Mar,
Present.
and Freddie is not here, although I thought I saw him, he said he was gonna be here.
He's Zoom.
He's there.
Oh, virtual,
Yes,
okay,
in the
I hear him there, okay, very good. So I'll turn the work session over to Mary, if you can introduce staff and then review the cases.
Okie dokie. So we have myself, Louis Raheel, Assistant Director of Community Development, Cole Baker, EIT, Graduate Engineer, Ms. Ashley Owens is joining us this evening, City Secretary, Bandita Saidi, our Senior Administrative Assistant. Then we have our Code Compliance, Desiree, Rachel, and Lauren joining us tonight as well.
They don't have last names? Dang, man.
They're difficult. They're difficult last names.
Got it.
Desiree.
You just get first names.
Volman, Rachel Rosenstern, and Lauren, I don't know your last name.
Schubert.
I just noticed you don't have it.
Lauren's fairly new with us, so I apologize that I don't know your last name, Lauren. All right, so we have 3 items on the agenda this evening. The first 2 are interrelated. So the first one is a site plan, so it's not a PD or anything, it's just a straight site plan for a piece of property that's actually located within both the city of Coppell and the city of Louisville. Smaller portion is in the city of Coppell. It's for an office warehouse, zone light industrial. It's gonna be an 81,000 roughly square foot office warehouse building. The portion that's in Coppell is gonna be really the truck parking spaces, some of the car parking spaces, part of the fire lane, and most of the landscaping. So there's entrances off of 121 as well as Vista Ridge Mall Drive in Louisville. This did require an interlocal agreement, which we did with the city of Louisville about a year or so ago. And this is going to be called Lovett Industrial. So you're probably familiar with Lovett Group. They did the property just south of this, where they did the big office warehouse and then the 2 retail office components out front on 121. So really not much to this. You know, we put some landscaping on it. It's going to be 56% landscaped on our part. They're going to put trees all along the perimeter. Really not much to it on this one. The next item is the plat that goes along with this. Essentially taking the parcels that are not currently platting them into one lot. So it'll go both before the city of Louisville and the city of Coppell to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Obviously the conditions will be that both cities approve the site plan as well as the plat. We'll get them all signed and filed as well.
So both cities have to sign the plat?
Yes.
Because that's not the Texas law. Texas law states that the bigger of the 2 cities has jurisdiction and should sign the plat.
Well, we talked about it and that's what we're doing.
I think
Okay,
we did
you-
it before.
Yeah, we did that before.
The
Yeah,
but it's
pickleball
not-
indoor.
Yeah, go right ahead, I'm just saying what state law is.
Okay.
Just curious.
And do we have to vote on these separate? I think you've asked that question before or something, but, or can we just combine them together?
Lump them
and do-
together?
Do one vote, since they're related?
Well, one's a
Just curious.
plat and one's a site plan, I would just say do
Okay,
them
That's fine.
independently.
Okay,
It's, yeah, there's not much to them.
no, I'm just curious.
Um,
Mary, remind me again, what encompasses the interlocal agreement? Like, what is in that again?
So basically it outlines who takes care of what. So essentially, the way we have it structured is anything that's on our side, like landscaping, it gets irrigated with our water, and so our taps. Anything that's on the Louisville side, they'll take care of in terms of the water. The building itself is on the Louisville side entirely, so they'll take care of building permits, inspections for the building. The fire lane, it'll be built to Louisville standards. Police, fire from Louisville will, go to that building if it catches on fire. So it just outlines who's responsible for what.
How do taxes work, to following on Ed's question?
So it's based on the proportion of the lot that you have and what's on that lot. And so the county will determine the valuation and tax it accordingly. It won't be much for us.
No,
It's just parking.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the last item on the agenda for tonight is Greystone Construction, located at 192 Southwestern Boulevard. So this fronts the corner of Howell and Southwestern. It's a vacant, well, it's pretty much a vacant lot. There's a garage on there currently. Essentially, the owners want to put an 1,800 square foot office building for their construction offices. This is a very narrow site to put anything on it, honestly. So we're doing the PD process. Because if you went in with the full setbacks, you wouldn't be able to put anything on this lot. So there are some variances or PD conditions related to the setback, as well as some of the landscaping, because part of our landscaping requirement is that you have perimeter landscaping, which they meet in terms of the intent or the percentage wise, but not necessarily in terms of the, like they don't have 10 feet along the western side or the northern side. Because there's a garage there, like right on the property line. They have to have parking, so that takes away from some of the landscaping. But the majority of the landscaping we find is sufficient in terms of they meet the landscaping along the Howell portion and along the southwestern portion. It's very deep, especially on the southwestern portion. If you look at the southwestern side, there's probably at least a good 50 feet or more that's actually right of way before you get to their property. So, but anyone driving by is not gonna know that. It's gonna look like their front yard is gonna be, like 70 feet deep or something.
So Mary, the road that this is on Howell, is Howell Drive, yeah?
Yeah,
So that's an unimproved road.
right, so, and Cole's here and he can answer some questions, but it's actually, they have plans that they're working on right now to redo that road. What's the time frame for that, Cole?
Later this year to start
Yeah.
construction.
So I guess that would include drainage and the whole
Yep.
bit, right?
They're, replacing the utilities and putting in underground drainage along there and making it a standard 28-foot wide concrete street. So it'll match what's closer to Southwestern there.
Yeah.
So in terms of, so we'll be putting up a new 8-foot privacy board and board fence. The building itself is gonna be 1,800 square feet. It'll have offices, a bathroom and I think a little conference room. They're gonna have a little area in the back behind the garage where they can put their couple trailers. So it'll be stored back there. The garage will also act as a screening device. The only access to this site will be off of Howell. Now, I know we have had some people call, not really in favor of what they're proposing, feeling that they don't want anyone coming in off of Howell. Their argument is that it's a residential street. It's really not a residential street. Like, part of the issues that they've had is parents coming to pick up their kids from Pinkerton, come and park there, I guess waiting to get their kids. So that's probably some of the arguments that you're gonna hear tonight if any of the residents show up. In terms of, we did look at having a southwestern driveway or entrance for this, but it's really not, it's not functional. It doesn't meet the driveway spacing requirements because Howell is too close, the driveway next door is too close. And then even if we did allow it for some reason, that whole site would end up being a concrete jungle. And then it still is not functional in terms of allowing for the parking and allowing for, their trailers to be parked there. So we did look at it, and this is kind of the best site plan for that site, in our opinion.
What's the business next to it? Looks like it's,
The IT one,
yeah,
it's an IT one.
it's IT.
To the west, to the west.
To the
Yeah,
west.
to the west.
Yeah, I think it's IT.
And is there, because that's technically a business.
Yeah,
This will be a business. Was there any thought of moving the driveway over, creating a shared driveway, a wider driveway to kind of
they
create something unique?
They explored that, and the people next door were not amenable to that. So part of the, and then you look at, Cavalry, or where they used to be, just on the other side of Howell and Southwestern, so across the street from each other.
Mhm.
When they went through this process, they were given, so their lot was a combination of two lots. So they were able to put a driveway off Southwestern. They also got approved a driveway off of Howell, they just never built, but it is approved if they wanted to put it in the future. The other thing that we need to look at is just north of this lot, it is also zoned commercial, and across the street, the next two lots above Cavalry are also zoned commercial. So, kind of like a brief history of this whole site, Howell and Bullock, it was all zoned commercial. It only got rezoned to residential, maybe like 2002 or so, and that was to give the residents an opportunity to, become compliant with single-family residential, and it also allows them to, if they need to do improvements on their house, because then it made them conforming, versus if it's commercial, you can't expand a non-conforming use. But these lots, the 192 Southwestern, the one beside it, the two above it, are all zoned commercial. So it's not like there isn't already commercial zoning or traffic.
Precedents.
There is. And the other thing I want you guys to kind of keep in mind is that it's an office use, which is like the least amount of parking and probably traffic generation. If it was retail, for that size, we would require like 9 parking spots, and you'd have a lot more in and out traffic. This essentially is going to be an office with like 4 or 5 offices, a little conference room. And essentially, if they're not out in the field, they're not making money, right? So their goal is to really not be in the office very much.
Are they bringing clients into this office?
They might be, but essentially, it's not like a dentist office where there's someone
Okay.
every
Medical
15
dental,
minutes.
that has a big turnover and greater
Yeah.
parking demand.
Exactly.
What's their business?
They're construction, so they're typically out on site.
This is the neighborhood though that there was a big drainage issue, right? Was this the one behind Dairy Queen? That whole area would always go underwater.
Yes.
I think resident number one's here. Okay.
Yeah. So, like
See,
we
you
said,
might remember him.
the city has plans for redoing that street, so that should take care of some of those issues. Yeah, that's all I got.
Do we know when the city will do that?
Later this year.
Before the end of the year.
Mhm.
So it's already approved, designed.
Oh, yeah.
Design, we're at 100%. We had some comments that the engineer's working on fixing, then we'll work on getting it bid out, so it'll be starting later this year.
What about Bullock? Are you guys
It's
missing
both of those streets.
both the
yeah.
streets? Well, that's good. That should take care of all that drainage, regional drainage problem there.
Yeah, there's a big drainage issue there.
And because the whole area was commercial, zone commercial, that's why the fencing, we're allowing a wood
Well,
fence
but,
versus something more,
but they back up to another commercial property.
okay. But what about behind it?
Those were done probably in the 80s. And a lot of the other commercial developments were given variances for parking, landscaping, fencing.
Looks like that shed is right on the property line too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sure does. Huh?
Yeah. So that's why part of the PD conditions are to accept the setbacks as presented. So on the north it'll be 0, on the,
Did we allow this though?
what's that?
We allowed it back in whenever that shed went in?
It was there, I don't know when it was there. I believe at some point maybe it was a house, you know what I mean? So maybe it was, I'm not sure when it was there, but it's there. So now we're dealing with it.
The IT building, IT infrastructure?
Well, and they even got they built an addition, I think, on that one at some point. The last thing before we kind of get going in there, city council update, was it well-built canopy ordinance got approved? And I think that's all we had. You guys have any more questions before we head out there?
I'm good.
All right, so it's 6:28, we need a quick break before we start, or are we good to go? A quick break?
Let's
Okay.
just get going.
Depends on
Well,
what you plan on
6:28, we'll
chit-chatting
adjourn the
about.
pre-session,
Let's do it.
do the general session. What's that?
Do 5 minutes?
5 minutes? All righty. Sorry about the delay there. The time is 6:37, and the Planning and Zoning Commission is now reconvening into regular session. Just a note to all those that are here tonight, Freddie Guerra, Commissioner Guerra is online virtually, so he'll be participating remotely today. Freddie, get well from COVID. Item 3 on the agenda is citizens' appearance. Is there anyone who would like to speak on an item that's not on the agenda tonight? If I could just see hands. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to move on. You'll still have the chance to talk. That's a separate item there. So, did we receive any requests or written comments for a citizen's appearance?
No, sir.
None? Okay. Moving on then, item 4 is the approval of our May 16th meeting, the meeting minutes. Are there any comments to the minutes or is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes of the meeting of May 16, 2024 of the Planning and Zoning Commission be approved as written.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Portman. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Commissioner Hafman. Got it right. Okay. All righty. Item 5 this evening is, I'm sorry.
Vote? Do we have to vote to approve?
Yes, I'm sorry. I moved. We do need a roll call. If we could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Blankenship.
Present.
Commissioner Guerra.
Present.
Chairman Haas. Sorry, Vice Chairman Portman.
Present.
Chairman Haas.
Are we approving the minutes?
Yes.
We've
Yes.
already done
Oh, I thought we were taking it.
So aye or not, aye or
that. Roll
nay?
call.
Oh, yeah, say A or no.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Okay, aye.
Okay. Commissioner Mauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hafman.
Aye.
Commissioner Bishop.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right. Back on track here. Item 5 this evening is to consider approval of a site plan for the Lovett Industrial Lot 1 Block A, a total of 6.56 acres, split between the city of Coppell and the city of Louisville, for the construction of an office warehouse building, that being 81,156 square feet, located in Louisville, and associated parking located in Coppell, and subject to an interlocal agreement. We have a staff presentation by Ms. Mary Perone Boswell. Mary?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Item 6 on your agenda is for Lovett Industrial Site Plan. So this is an oddly shaped piece of property made up of multiple parcels, again with a portion in Coppell, another portion in Louisville. The Coppell portion is the long skinny one to the south. Since the project lies within 2 municipalities, an interlocal agreement between the city of Coppell and the city of Louisville was approved by both cities in the last year. So the interlocal agreement facilitates the use on this property and breaks out the responsibilities for each city in terms of fire response, garbage, utilities, and so on. So the building is proposed to be 36 feet in height, 81,150 square feet in size. It's proposed to face Vista Ridge Mall Drive with 2 entrances, one off of State Highway 121 Business and the other from Vista Ridge Mall Drive. The truck court is proposed to be located in the rear of the building with the required car parking located at the eastern and western sides of the property and truck parking on the southern portion of the lot. The southern portion of the lot does back up to another Lovett project with a another large office warehouse building located fully in Coppell. In terms of landscaping for this site, we're only looking at the portion that is in Coppell, and 56% of that is landscaped. And they will be planting overstory trees along the perimeter as shown. So staff is recommending approval of the Lovett Industrial Site Plan, subject to the following conditions. That there will be additional comments at the time of detail engineering review and building permit. 2, that it's subject to the City of Louisville approval. And 3, that tree mitigation plans be updated. So they did send us some new tree plans, and we are in the process of reviewing that. That is the end of my presentation. I believe the applicant's engineer is here as well if you have any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mary. Any questions of staff by the commission? Okay. Is there any discussion by the commission? Is there a motion by the commission?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman. Move to approve site plan, Levitt Industrial, Lot 1, Block A, 6.56 acres split between the city of Coppell and the city of Louisville for the construction of an office warehouse, building, and associated parking, subject to staff conditions.
Okay, very good. We have a motion by Commissioner Marr. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Blankenship. Ashley, would you call the roll, please?
Please respond by saying A or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship,
Aye.
Commissioner Guerra,
Aye.
Chairman Haas,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Portman,
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hafman,
Aye.
and Commissioner Bishop.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Okay, item 7 on the agenda is to consider the approval of the 11th edition Lot 1 Block A plats to create a new lot and associated easements located in the city of Coppell and the city of Louisville, located on 6.56 acres of property zoned light industrial and situated at the corner of Vista Ridge Mall Drive and State Highway 121. We have a staff presentation by Miss Mary Prone Boswell. Mary?
Sorry, I just want to back up 1 second because I forgot to click a button. There was a 4th condition that the drainage will be reviewed as part of the detailed engineering review. So I apologize. There's 4 conditions.
We had that covered.
Okay. So item number 7, this is also part of the Lovett property. So essentially, we're platting, looking to plat the property for the site plan that we just looked at. So it's a simple plat request. This incorporates the unplatted parcels located within the city of Louisville and the city of Coppell. The plat addresses the easements, fire lane required for the construction of the office warehouse building. And I believe there's some right-of-way dedication in Louisville as well. So staff is recommending approval of Lovett Addition, Lot 1, Block A, subject to the following conditions being met. 1, that there may be additional comments at the time of engineering review and building permit, and 2, that the plat is approved by the City of Louisville Planning and Zoning Commission as well.
Okay,
That's it.
very good. Any questions of staff by the commission? Any discussion? I'll make a motion that we approve the 11th edition, Lot 1, Block A, with the conditions as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Haas, second by Commissioner Portman. Ashley, would you call the roll, please?
Please respond by saying A or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship,
Aye.
Commissioner Guerra,
Aye.
Chairman Haas,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Portman,
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hafman,
Aye.
and Commissioner Bishop.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Very good. Item 8 on the agenda is a public hearing. This is to consider approval of PD-317-C, that being the Greystone Construction Building, Lot 2, North Lake Estates, a zoning change request from commercial to plan development number 317-commercial to approve a new detailed site plan for an 1,800 square foot office building located on 0.23 acres of property situated at 192 Southwestern Boulevard at the request of Danny Diddick of Greystone Construction and being represented by McAtee Engineering. We have a staff presentation by Mary Prone Boswell. Mary?
This item on your agenda tonight is a piece of property located on the corner of Southwestern Boulevard and Howell. So the site plan identifies an existing garage located on the north of the site, which is planned to remain. And they also plan to construct a new 1,800 square foot office building.
Mary, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Do we know if we'll get the screens, if our screens at all tonight?
Oh,
They're still working on it? Okay.
okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry.
So they're proposing a new 1,800 square foot office building with offices and a small conference room. 5 new parking spaces are proposed. So the site will be accessed off of Howell Drive. There's a place behind the existing garage warehouse to park their work trailers. They're also proposing an 8-foot wooden board-on-board privacy fence with cap to screen the site along the northern and western sides. And there are some PD conditions that they are requesting. They relate to setbacks reflecting the existing building location on site and the limited room for development. Staff is not opposed to this setback request. In terms of landscaping, they're providing the minimum 15-foot landscape strip along Howell and also along the southern portion of their site. Additional landscaping is provided along the western perimeter and in front of the building. So it's a variable width along the north and west. The site is approximately 36% landscaped, which typically would require about 30%. And this does not include the right-of-way in front of this property along Southwestern Boulevard, which will also be landscaped. And that portion is about another 2,033 square feet of landscaping just north of the sidewalk. They will also be adding some trees to the site, and some of these trees, we're going to have to review the plan a little bit since some of the trees were accent trees and not overstory trees, but we do have enough room to add all the trees to this. So in terms of building elevations, the building will have a brick veneer with standing seam metal roof and canopy across the northern facade. Large glass windows will frame the northern portion of the building and a good portion of the southern elevation. The eastern and western elevations will be brick. The main entrance will be from the northern elevation, accessed from the parking area. The address and sign for the business is proposed to be located on the southern elevation with a 12-inch pin-mounted anodized aluminum letters. And there is a variance for glazing on the building, especially along the north and southern portions, where typically you don't, typically 50% is allowed, but obviously the north part is mostly glazed, and the southern elevation is probably just a little bit over the 50%. So in terms of, this is the existing garage that's on site. And I'm going to hand this over. This is the some of the brick colors and material board for this project. And so this is the a rendering of what they're proposing for that site. So it's 1,800 square foot building. So just want to give you a little bit of history or recap. The site was platted as part of the North Lake Estate subdivision back in 1961. The entire subdivision was commercially zoned, and a portion was rezoned to residential later on. This is one of several original lots that face Southwestern Boulevard and that have remained commercially zoned. So there are another 3 lots located on Howell, directly north of these, north of this lot, along Southwestern Boulevard, which are also zoned commercial. So the commercial is essentially the pinkish brown color. On the east side of Howell, facing Southwestern Boulevard, Cavalry Construction, a professional office building, and a garage was constructed over 2 lots. So they were approved for a professional office building. They have a driveway off of Southwestern Boulevard, which is their primary entrance, but they were also approved a driveway off Howell Drive. That was not constructed, but it was approved if they ever decided to add it in the future. As it relates to land use, the request for professional office use is the least intensive land use within the list of permissible commercial uses in commercial zoning. The amount of parking required and the total trip generation is low in comparison to what could be allowed. So this 1,800 square foot office building, it requires 1 to 300 versus like a retail is 1 to 200, which would require like 9 parking spots. So again, the building is proposed to contain offices and a conference room. The majority of the time, I believe that employees will be on a job site. The homes to the north were constructed in the late 1960s and 70s. The entire subdivision was commercially zoned until 2002, when some of the homes were rezoned to SF7 with a planned development with conditions. This gave the residences a conforming status to allow for legal site improvements and the associated insurance and financing requirements. The property along several others in the subdivision were never rezoned and remained commercial. There have been several SUPs, special use permits, you can see with the little orange dots, that's what the little orange dot means, approved for the remaining commercial zone properties, which have included a beauty salon, a construction office, landscaping business, and a trench safety consultant. These businesses were also granted variances relating to parking, landscaping, and fencing exceptions. The property to the west had a planned development approved in 1999 for a commercial specialty contractor that did waterproofing and restoration of commercial buildings. I believe now it's an IT building. The existing house for that was used as an office, and they were granted some variances as well. This is a planned development, which is a zone change request, so we did mail out notices, 13 within 200 feet as required by state law, an additional 45 within 800 feet as a courtesy. So we did receive 9 emails, 5 of those within 800 feet that were opposed, and 1 within 200 feet that was also opposed to the request. The other 3, I'm not sure, I was unable to locate where they lived in terms of, in relation to the map here. So staff is recommending approval of the request subject to the following conditions. 1, that there may be additional comments during the detailed engineering review. 2, PD conditions: A, to approve the reduced setbacks as shown. B, to allow the landscaping area as proposed and updating the data table calculations to accurately reflect what is shown. C, to allow the glazing of the building as shown. And D, to allow the parking as shown. So that is the end of my presentation. I believe the applicant is here as well, if you have any questions.
Okay, very good, Mary. Could you ask a couple of clarifying questions?
Yeah.
So you mentioned, if you could pull up the image that had there you go, there. I'm sorry, the next slide. Other way. That had the land use and it had the special use permit dots. There you go. So you mentioned the 3 special use permits. Those are the 3 dots.
Yep.
And you said 1 was office, 1 was...
So these were done, like, some of them were done a long time ago. So the uses that were approved were like a beauty salon, a landscaping business, I think a construction office, and then some kind of trenching business.
Okay, and those are operating in the current structures? I mean...
So those were the special use permits that were approved for those sites. I'm not sure if necessarily those same businesses are still there. I believe there's a landscape business on just north of so at 160 down here on the right, that was Cavalry Construction. I believe that's now owned by somebody else. Just north of that is a landscaping business, I believe. I'm not sure what the other 2 currently are, but they
Okay.
all are zoned for commercial businesses.
was just double checking because looking at the street view, they look like residential homes, but they're occupied by businesses. Okay. That was number one. Number two, and so the entire area was commercial, correct? The
Yes.
Inclusive of all the current residential development properties back in the back.
Correct. So when they came back, they left out these pieces here for the commercial, but everybody else went residential.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I do remember this neighborhood area from the Dairy Queen and then the mixed use, and there were some issues with drainage, but it sounded like from our pre-session that Howell and Butler or Bullock, they're going to be reconstructed as approved plans. And where's Cole? Cole, if I could you come down and share the timing on the completion of the reconstruction of those roads, or at least the status of those projects?
Yeah, we're working on finalizing the plans with the engineer. They submitted 100% plans, but we had a few minor comments that we're looking at addressing, and we'll have some more discussions with them. But we're looking to later this year to start construction on that. Believe the estimated construction time was a little over a year, was what we were estimating. So.
Okay, so by summer of 25.
Or early 26.
Or earlier, okay.
It depends on how long our bidding schedule and everything will take.
And those projects are funded?
Yeah, they are funded, yes. Yeah, the contract hasn't been awarded because it hasn't been bid out, but it is in the budget.
Gotcha. Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
how are those projects funded? Where's that money coming from?
It depends on the project. There's a number of funding sources that are used for different street projects. I don't remember off the top of my head for this one, but some of them are funded through bonds, some of them are funded through sales tax.
Is that what you're looking for? What pot of money they're from? Okay. Okay. Okay.
And will this construction schedule solve the flooding issue in the residential neighborhood?
So currently there are some issues with drainage due to, it's all, the way that the subdivision is laid out, it's the asphalt street, and then there's bar ditches on the sides, or at least there were at some point. And so over time, some of those have gotten a little filled in, or some of them don't flow quite the same way they were. And so as part of this project, we're adding the underground storm drain system that'll carry the water away to the existing storm drain system over by Denton Tap. So.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that for context on this application. Okay, Mary, I did have a follow-on question. You mentioned in pre-session that the site was several iterations of the site were undertaken just to kind of look at layout and parking, and can you share a little bit on that?
Sure. So part of the concerns from the residents that we heard was that they did not want they did not want more traffic on Howell. So they wanted a driveway off of Southwestern. So we did explore that alternative. Essentially, with the size of this site, it did not make it practical. So from a strict code standpoint, it doesn't meet our driveway spacing requirements, both from, to allow a driveway, the spacing from Howell onto this property, and then from this property onto the next adjacent property. The driveways would be too close. If we did grant some kind of exception to it, we did look at if there was a driveway there. It just did not make the site functional. It would essentially turn into almost all concrete, but it still would not allow the layout to have the parking and the storage and everything else. It's just the configuration of that lot is very it's very tight. It doesn't, the most functional way to access it would be from Howell.
Okay. And I had asked in pre-session if there was any opportunity with the adjacent property to create a shared drive for some kind of access, and the answer was no from that property owner.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. Any other questions of staff by the commission at this time?
Yes.
Okay, Ed?
Mary, in terms of the parking, what would this have been if it parked to code?
So it does park to code, because
So-
it was 6 spaces. So
Oh,
they have
6
one
spaces.
existing, and then they're building 5 new ones.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So offices parking at generally 1 to 300, and if it had been anything else, it'd be 1 to 100, or for,
Right, like restaurants, 1 to 100.
Yeah.
Retails, 1 to 200. Medicals, 1 to 175. So every other category is much higher parking count.
and Mary, one last question with regards to site layout. And it may have already been investigated, rather than having the parking lot in between the garage and the building, the proposed building, was there any thought of putting the parking lot on the other side, closer to Southwestern and more or less adjoining the garage and site? I'll ask the applicant, but,
So this is the alternate that we were looking at, with the driveway coming up of Southwestern and the parking out front. But then it just did not allow for them to have access or parking for their trailers. They would still have to have some kind of, driveway off of how to get those trailers in and out. And then you can see that essentially the whole thing would be paved.
okay. Okay, very good. Is the applicant here to present the case?
Yes, we're here.
We'll have some questions regarding the site. If I could get your name and address for the record.
My name is Joseph Wilkins. I'm the architect on the project, and I live in Dallas.
The address?
The address
Please.
is 1214 Barlow Avenue.
Okay, very good, thank you. So I'd been asking about some of the site considerations, and I guess through your thought process, this is obviously the final layout, but in the other format of parking in the front, Mary kind of explained some of the issues with, I presume, trailers and storage. Can you share what kind of trailers are going to be coming in and out of the proposed site?
Well, first of all, they're not there all the time, and we tried to screen those trailers as much as we could behind the existing garage. But it's a box trailer and a flatbed trailer.
Okay, and so obviously then the area, the parking lot would be enough to make a turnaround, and I
Yes.
presume they're going to be put in the far back corner there? Okay,
And in the alternate scheme that we showed, it was so limiting with the requirements for landscaping. We were able to achieve the landscaping requirements with this layout.
I see. I did have a question regarding landscape. So there's the overhead power lines, so it looks like it'll run perhaps almost in between the one darker green and the 3 lighter green. Is the darker the overstory tree?
Yes.
And the lighter, that's probably some, what are the lighter colors? What type lands?
I think they're the overstories also.
Okay.
But our notes and our drawings indicate that the trees are to be located 12 feet either side of the power lines.
Otherwise, and what kind of trees are we talking about?
It's a mix. Some of them are oaks, the Chickawa or whatever
So those can get pretty big canopy?
they do. But some of them are also smaller. I mean, we had some Japanese maples that were the decorative, and I can't remember what all the other ones were. But I know that we did not have any of the ball cypress.
Okay. I just worry about if it is an oak, most oaks get fairly big, and utility companies have no problem
I know. Doing a
shaping
pretty
those trees
design
as
to it.
needed.
Yeah. But we have it 12 foot either side of the
It'll be
power
close, okay.
Well, we have an opportunity also to use some like ornamental trees that don't grow as tall, so they would have to provide more of those.
Okay,
So we're still kind of working out the configuration, but essentially, this provided a lot more landscaping to meet the requirements.
Okay. And then I'll get you here in a second. With regards to the daily operation of the site, so this is office, and there's going to be a conference room. Is the anticipation that there'll be clients coming in and out for meetings, or what's the conference room?
Well, we only have 6 parking spaces, and right now there's only 3 or 4 employees that are to be in the office. Most of them are out in the field during office hours. They come in the morning and they leave at 5 o'clock or so. So there's not in and out traffic.
Okay.
And we were just talking that back a long time ago, it wouldn't be unusual for the subcontractors to come in on a Friday and pick up their checks. That's all direct deposit now.
Okay.
So it's certainly not a heavy traffic flow.
Yeah, I was, and that was where my thought came from with the small amount of parking. And if clients are coming in and you have your full staff there, and then there's spillover onto Howell Street, how that might look, but you're thinking there it's going to be all contained on site.
Yes.
Okay. Kent, you had some questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, I'm curious about the storage shed. It's sitting right on the lot line, no setbacks. What's the history of the storage shed, and is that storage shed essential to the function of the operation?
It is. Greystone Construction is a fairly new company, and they're growing. They do have some locations where they have limited storage off-site, but this was one of the pros to the project, is to have that existing warehouse or storage area.
So that was there before y'all got there?
Mm-hmm. It was there whenever I was the architect on the Calvary construction, and that building was there then.
Okay. I guess I'm just seeing an old street view. I thought this was...
It's been painted. It looks better than it used to.
That's the same building? Okay.
And it is right on the property line.
All right. Kent, you had any follow-on questions there?
Yeah, it's just an unusual, if that building wasn't there, maybe you would have more flexibility in your site design.
It would. But the site is extremely challenging to put any kind of structure on. An 1,800 square foot building is very small. But there was a lot of constricting things regarding that site. It was just fortunate enough we have a client that it worked for them to put that 1,800 square foot building on there.
Thank you, sir.
And I had 2 other questions. Time of operation of the office building, is it a typical 8 to 5?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you mentioned the storage for materials.
It's materials
All
storage.
materials will be enclosed within the structure. There'll be no materials outside.
In fact, we're putting all the trash cans inside the warehouse to be taken out whenever it's.
Gotcha.
So, and interestingly enough, that warehouse has a restroom in it.
So, okay. That is interesting. Okay. Any questions of the applicant by the commission?
Yes, sir. Excuse me, but they're saying it's a construction company, but what exactly does that mean? What kind of operation is this?
They are somewhat of a spinoff from Calvary Construction, and they do restorations of tornado damaged buildings and fire damaged buildings, flooded buildings. It's not a typical construction company.
And I had one other question with regards to the trailers. And so the intent is that if there are trailers, they're on those 2 spots behind the shed there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all anticipated that anything related to the site will be on site, nothing on Howell, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
And we screened it. I mean, we purposely placed it back there so it's not offensive to the neighborhood.
Yeah. How long was that shed there before you repainted it?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I think we did Calvary about 8 years ago, maybe longer.
I guess I'm just kind of surprised that, like Kent, they're right on the property line, that there's no setback. So that makes things different. Okay. Okay, we may have some follow-on questions for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I do have folks that have signed up. Don't worry, if you haven't signed up, you'll get a chance to speak. But these are the names that have been submitted so far. So what I'll do is I'll call a name, and then I'll call the following person so they can be queued up and ready to go. So the general rules, per Robert's rule of order, we generally allow 3 minutes to speak on the item. Try to keep your items focused on the site application at hand. We kind of took a bigger picture with regards to context and some of the other improvements that are anticipated for the streets there close by. So 3 minutes. Ashley has the clock. You'll hear, I think there's a countdown at 1 minute. She'll let you know you have a minute left. So we have Justin Keller, and then to be followed by Julio Castaneda. Oh, Justin, come on down. And then Julio's next, okay? If I could get your name and address for the record.
Justin Keller. I'm actually at 829 Bullock. So my concerns about this project are as follows. The entrance on Howell, it's a residential street. The construction truck noises that will be going in and out, possibly early mornings, afternoons, evenings. The drainage is already an established issue on our street, and I haven't seen the resolution to drainage and what they're going to do at our house, and everything flows together there. The delivery of materials for a construction company, and the road width and setback requirements. So those streets are already narrow, and you can't turn a car around on the asphalt itself easily. You can't even do barely a U-turn in the end of the cul-de-sac. And I know with the setbacks that are going to come with drainage improvements, it's going to make those streets even more narrow. And so with construction trucks and trailers, those are hard to maneuver on narrow streets. Those are my concerns.
Very good. Thank you very much. Julio, Mr. Castaneda, to be followed by Rich Pallone. Thank you.
I appreciate y'all's concern. It sounds like the right questions are being asked. Thank y'all for that. The drainage does seem to be taking the right turn after many, many years of bringing it up to City Council and these departments. So clearly you know about it. First off, the trailers that are being used isn't a flatbed and a small one. It's 2 big dump trailers that can handle about 5 tons of trash. Right now, the goosenecks are sitting on Howell. In other words, you couldn't even put that trailer in there without consuming the entire street. Both trailers are out there right now, and we've called for about 2 months. Why are those trailers still out there? So let's clear up what they're using actually. The second thing, we can expect more of that, is I own multiple properties in that area, and I'm faced with the challenges that they are faced with, and I have to make it work, right? I get that a person is entitled to do something with their land, right? But not at the cost of me causing such a hardship on the residents of that area, right? It's hard to get a piece of land that big anywhere in central Coppell, which is central to everything else in DFW, for the amount that these lots sell for. So you expect a challenge. It's the same thing with the residences up there. That lot isn't as desirable as a lot that size in other parts of Coppell. We know about the streets, we know about the drainage, we know about the culverts, the outdated look, so we have our own challenges, and for that, we pay less for those homes, and we know that that's what we get. So whether they have to go and can't maximize their space and all that other stuff, I can't maximize my space either with the way I would like to. I can't use an alley because, speaking of the setback that y'all brought up, that building was right on the property line. When they did architect Calvary, they didn't abide by a setback, so they closed down our alleyway. I can't put the trailer that they proposed to back into this property. I couldn't use it on my own house in my own alleyway because they put that Calvary fence right at the property line with no setback. We brought that up to Coppell back then, and they were too into it that attorneys would have had to get involved because the construction had already started.
You have less than 1 minute.
Thank you. Essentially, I understand that a person has a right to propose stuff, and I'm all for the use of the land. I get that this probably is one of the least invasive, but with the exception of it undermining the street, of it being something deteriorating to the neighborhood. I believe that the entrance needs to come in through Southwestern Find a Way. That's me.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, sir. Is your primary objection with the trailers?
The entrance.
I'm saying, what I'm asking is, if there were trailers not allowed on the property, would that mitigate your concern?
That is, yes, yes. And I'll tell you why. Those trailers come in dirty, full, loaded, so that the next day they can be emptied and cleaned up. And we see that already with the landscape company. And all that trash and all that deterioration of the road, we live with it coming over into our land or our lots, and the street being deteriorated as a result of the weight of those trailers. I told Mary, very kind lady, that the alleyway, because of its business use, non-residential use, because of its business use, had craters almost 2 feet deep that just this week got filled after 2 months of me and my wife calling for them to get filled. So we can't even use the alleyway. These trucks are 4x4s with trailers. They're well equipped to get out of these trenches, but we can't use the alleyway. So yes to that question.
Thank you very much. Rich?
Yes.
To be followed by Ms. Itasham.
First of all, I've been there longer than anybody. I've been in that neighborhood 45 years. I was the guy that got that rezoned in 2002 after 17 years of fighting with the city. We couldn't get insurance on those properties. I bought that property. I was a young guy 45 years ago. I'm an old man today. But 45 years ago, I got duped into buying a house there and found out it was zoned commercial. They were supposed to put a loop there. That's why it was commercial. Those houses were made by a contractor named Parker back then in the late 60s. You talk about the beauty salon is no longer working. Trend Tech is no longer there. There's a guy living in there right now. Ron's living in there. The lady did the beauty salon has passed away. Her son's here, so there's no beauty salon. The only thing that's still left there is the landscaping business. You ask about the garage, you call it. That was a welding shop. A guy named Mr. Trunzler who arsoned his home. That shop didn't burn. That neighborhood was plagued with arsons. There was an arson on Howe because of the way everything was zoned, and the reason Cavalry was built there were 3 homes there that were arsoned. So that neighborhood has had problems, like I said, for the last 45 years. My objection is it is so crowded with the school coming in and out, the new warehouses that just came there, and we don't need additional stuff there. I object to the driveway. I was the guy that gave Cavalry all the grief and wouldn't let them put the drive there because we don't need additional. And yes, they're going to be fixing the street. They're going to be working with the drainage. That in itself is going to be a challenge. Cole knows that also. They still haven't worked out the deal with the way the pipes are going to go in there. That neighborhood has had problems. The city of Coppell wants to get rid of that neighborhood. I'm telling you, like I said, I've been there 45 years. I've been there. I don't know what else to say. I didn't write anything else down, but I object to them coming in. It's a Southwestern Boulevard address. Stay off my street. As it is, the landscape, which the guy's a very nice guy, Every now and then, his trailers have to come around. It's more wear and tear on my street, more dirt, more mud. That little thing in the back, that thing's a joke. You couldn't get a trailer in that little hole in the wall over there. They put a fence up.
You have less than 1 minute.
Okay. And Julio was saying that about the trailers. For the last couple of months, I sent pictures in. I don't know if you gave them the pictures. I should have sent it to them. They've been parked there illegally for months. For months. Matter of fact, there were pallets on the side. They finally cleaned that mess up, too. So I just don't want them there. I don't want that entrance on Hal. Like I said, I've been there 45 years. The only guy that's been there longer than me is Danny. He was there before I was there. 45 years is a long time. And it took me 17 years to get that rezoned. None of you people were there then. I'm over.
But, if I could ask you.
Who am I? Where do I live?
I think I have it here, but you're on Howell Drive.
Yes.
801 Howell?
Yep.
Okay. With regards to current operations, the trucks, pallets, are they parked on site or are they parking on Howell?
They were parked on Howell in front of that warehouse. You don't have the picture up. But they were parked there for months. And the city has been very lax doing everything. Since this COVID, they haven't enforced anything. But they were parked there. So I was pretty nice about it because I knew it was going to come down to this. But I just sent something in. Mary, I sent it to you. Why are they still parked there? All of a sudden, because this is coming up, everybody got antsy, and they got them off of there. I said, sure. You know, they're not parked there. Julio, they're gone. They took them away. But
Sir, you confirmed then, sir, that the trailers were belong to this construction company owner?
Yes, I know they were. I know that. I watched them put them there. There were 2 trailers, and they're large. They couldn't fit in that little back deal over there. That's a lot of baloney. That thing is so small you can't get anything in there. Matter of fact, they got things up against there's a fence on the other side of it that's actually pushing the fence down. You got to come out there and see. It's a joke. I'm telling you, it's a joke. Cavalry wanted to put that alley. I stopped that. I don't know if you no, you weren't there, Mary, at the time. I stopped that. You know, the guy said to me, I don't want to deal with you, Mr. Pallone. This is good. I said, that's my street. I live there. My blood is in that street. So he backed off. And I don't know, what, they still could put an alley? How are they going to put an alley there? They can't put an entrance there. It's a southwestern address. And I live on Howell. I can't have my address on Southwestern.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tasham, followed by Viswana. Okay. You're fine? Yeah. You're Itasham? And then how about Viswana?
Good evening. My name is Viswanatha Kichli. I'm the adjacent neighbor, 196 Southwestern Boulevard. I'm the owner of the Kiranam Holdings LLC that owns the property, and it's a group of companies that primarily we are using for IT services company. We work with Fortune 100 companies and mainly into IT services. And I'm a resident of Coppell. And I object this property for the reason I first reached out to the Building and Planning Commission just to see how the layout is, so that it blocks anything. So I did not get a chance to, because it was not approved at the time. They didn't share. Today I was able to download from the agenda, and I saw that. One thing I have objection is that setback area which blocks our office building. That's one. Again, architects are the ones that decide, but from just looking at the picture, that's what my observation are. Second objection is the trees may block the people getting in and out of while they want to make a turns onto the Southwestern Boulevard. And especially sometimes we have to back up. It's not a governor's way. Sometimes we just have to reverse it. And if we have the trees, it gets very difficult for us to see the view, and the trucks and cars, because I spend half of my day there, they go very fast. Even 30-mile zone, it's a joke there. And if cop is not there, they go at 50 miles, 45 miles minimum, because people want to get out of that street as fast as possible. So it takes at least 1 to 2 minutes for me to back up by observing traffic from both ends. So my request is I am not against any business growing or building their property in their own land that they own. It's just that be respectful of others and follow. Like when I came for the changes for my permit, we wanted to make a rectangle the front of the building. It was not allowed, saying that we didn't have enough space for landscaping and all. But in this case, they're just creating landscaping by turning the building towards, by not taking the existing garage, which is, as many of told, that it's on the property line. So when we want to follow the rules, either you give the exceptions, but at this same time, I personally feel they should take off the garage and maybe build a smaller one if they want to get that kind of office building.
You have less than 1 minute.
And I'm not trying to debate here. My question is how this can be even approved when with this many exceptions, this many faults, I can say critical errors or whatever we want to call, from a planning standpoint, just because it's an existing building, but they want to use it for multi-purpose, for two purposes. One, they want to have a dedicated garage, workshop, and I want to build 1,800 square feet office for a construction company. I don't think that will be the long-term purpose of it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I had a follow-on question for you.
Yeah.
Your observations on school parking, folks picking up kids from Pinkerton, how has that operation been from your perspective?
I actually live in Coppell, and I also have 2 kids going to Coppell ISD and Wilson. So I'm pretty much aware of the timing. So even during the school time, I pay extreme caution to avoid during that time to come to office. And if you want to come also, I'll tell my visitors to plan accordingly, that there is because our people, families picking up, they line up on that street.
Yeah.
That also a problem, but many people respectful of, they leave the way for our cars to get in and out of our driveway.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Cindy.
I'm quiet so far. So as I understand it from Mary, the owner may have approached you about sharing a driveway or putting in a joint driveway? Is
I
that
don't
true?
even know the owner. He very initially he reached out to me once that we want to build that fence that was broken during winds in March of last year, and I filed a claim with the insurance company. There were some issues going on back and forth. While we figured this out, we also had a construction permit request. So we wanted to combine all the repairs because the insurance company declined to pay for the repairs. So we wanted to combine with our construction project. So we paid to the general contractor to do on our own. He wanted to put the fence at the end. While we doing that, without my permission, he went ahead and put fence, and he actually encroached into my property. That drive, if you show the picture where they're parking trailers, there's already a gate, wooden gate with a metal frame was built out. That was built and they cut into my property. It's like this, so it is like this. So at least half feet, more than a feet, it came into my property, that cross section. And when we are not there, they did it. And I tried to reach the owner. I never got a chance to meet him. I didn't even see. And we had a couple of times text exchanges. I can present to the city. It was all about he is complaining. And many times, without our permission, they drove the trailers, muddy trailers, into my driveway to get out of that place because they parked the trailers in the existing new building where the proposed building was. They sometimes go out of our driveway and they leave all the mud and everything, the tire marks on us, and I had to clean up because we are IT company, we are not a construction company. People expect some cleanness when they want to come. So that my concern is even to share the driveway or do anything. That's my biggest concern. We work with companies like IBM and Microsoft, Google. These are the companies we work with. So we don't want to be in a situation where I need to spend half of my day just to look after my property. I rather focus on building solutions and some analytics for the companies to make company grow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, you have a shed in the back of your property that's on the property line as well? Is that not true?
Sorry?
You have a shed or a storage building on your property in the back? Is that correct?
The fencing cut into our property. It is not sharing our property line. Sorry? Yeah, shed, oh, you are asking shed, yes. We are going to remove that once the office is opened.
Okay, so,
We'll
and that's
get
on
rid
the
of that.
property line as well, back there in the
It's
corner?
not on property line, there's a gap with it, but it's a temporary one, we are going to get
I
rid
was
of.
just looking at Google Maps, it looks like it's right on top of it, but I could be wrong.
Sure, sir. You can visit our property, welcome. You can take a pictures and measure that. And it's a temporary one that was put by our owners, previous owners that we bought, but they had 3 trailers. We actually demolished 2 of them. This third one, we have kept some important items. As soon as this office is open in another few weeks, we are going to get rid of that. And we are going to make it a sitting area for anybody who want to sit and have coffee.
If I understood you correctly, you're suggesting that you would, in your idea of this site plan, that if they got
They
rid
should
of
have demolished that shed and built in a way that, in normal way. Now, we are bringing setback in the reverse order, and it's going to, for us, we are told 40 or 60 feet need to be from the property line. Now, it's 20 feet, so it obviously blocks everything. I don't have the mathematical diagrams in front of me, but I feel this needs to be thoroughly reviewed before approved by your great office.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have that's signed up here. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on the case? Anybody else? You're here. Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing. I would like to follow on with some questions of staff. I mean, I have some concern on just stuff going on over here. It sounds like there's been complaints, parking issues, dump truck issues, the property, this structure on the property line. Sounds like things are happening that's not consistent with the requirements here in Coppell at this particular site.
So the building's existing, right? It's been there for, I'm not sure how long. So they're requesting that they be able to keep it, and so in terms of setbacks, this is a corner lot, so they actually have a double frontage. If you were to actually apply all the setbacks, you could not construct anything on this site. In terms of the trailers, they did have 2 trailers parked right in front of this building. We did contact them to remove the trailers, which they did. What other question was there?
I'm just thinking out loud. Thank you, though. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I kind of feel the same way. It's like, okay, because that building existed, it's non-conforming by every standard that we know of in terms of being right on the property line, and stuffing 2 trailers inside that little area seems inappropriate, or at least impractical, if we're talking about a minimal amount of impact to the neighbors. Now, this is a reclamation company, so normally that type of an industry generates lots of trash. I mean, they're in there cleaning up hurricane buildings and buildings that have been, destroyed by fire and whatnot, and they're going to be big trash generators. So is that why those trailers were there in the first place? And why they never bothered to move them is a bother. That concerns me, that they're not, being considerate to the neighbors like they should be. So why should we want to allow this non-conforming use on this side? I mean, look, I'm all for people using the land the way they need to use the land to use their operation, but when it's encroaching on the neighbors the way it appears to be, that concerns me.
Glenn, did you have a question?
Mary, if they don't do this plan for this lot, but continue to operate in its current configuration, so they don't do the new construction and the new trees, is that a better solution than the proposal?
So all I can say is that they're looking to build an office building. They own the property. They would like to construct an 1,800 square foot office building. Now, whether they'd be willing to not park their trailers there, that's something that you could ask them. You know, this is the proposal that they're bringing forward, and this is what they'd like you to vote on.
Where the office building is proposed to be built, what's there right now?
Nothing. The only thing on this site is this
It's open.
building. Everything else is grass or vacant.
So there would be no other major change to the tract other than the grass goes away and an office building comes up? Okay, understand.
Yes, Mary, once once Howell is improved, will parking on that street be allowed by the residents?
I'll have
Or
to-
anyone?
I'll let Cole tackle that.
So parking will be allowed along the straightaways. With the end of the cul-de-sac, we're not making the cul-de-sac as large as we typically would in order to not eat into the residents' driveways too much. We're trying to balance that because it is a smaller right-of-way, and the houses are closer to the right-of-way than we would typically have. And so there will be parking along the straightaways, just not in the turnaround area.
Okay. Great, thanks, Cole.
Is the street being widened?
It will be a little wider than it is currently. It's going to be just a standard residential concrete street. So like we have anywhere else in town.
So a 30-foot back-to-back curb?
It's 28 foot.
28?
Back to back.
Okay. So little clarification question. So parking will be allowed on street, but in the residential area, that's residential parking and not commercial parking, correct?
There's no distinction. There are some areas where we have no parking for certain weight vehicles. There are some areas where we prohibit parking in certain portions of streets, but
So-
we won't have any knowledge of like who is parking there.
And I'll be asking the applicant to come back up, but if there's a stipulation of no parking on Howe Street for commercial, for trucks, or anything like that, is that something that the city would enforce? If we, is a condition of approval, no parking on Howell for commercial, and the reason I ask is because it's at our church at St. Anne, there's no parking on the residential street, on one side of the street.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's enforced because I got to donate to the city for that.
Right. I'm not aware of whether we're able to prohibit strictly commercial vehicles. That's not something that I've
But
seen,
could a no
but
parking zone be implemented?
That's something that could be looked at. But
Chairman,
Yeah, sorry.
I believe Mr. Raheel, our Community Development Assistant
Okay.
Director.
Thank you,
would like
Cole.
to
Thank you.
speak.
Yes, you're welcome.
For Cole? Thank you.
My
sir.
name is Louis Raheel, Assistant Director of Community Development. They can park where they park in because it's zoned commercial. It is not a residential
That's
property.
right, the whole area is zoned commercial.
Yes.
Now, because the fact that it's built as residential, even though it's zoned commercial, I mean, to me, that's not a good mix.
This is not for me to speculate, but it is zoned commercial, so we cannot enforce it. They could park there.
So the residents move?
Okay. Any other code type questions?
To clarify, sir, is that, you're saying that the entire street and all of the residences on that street are zone commercial, or just that section?
That property is zoned commercial.
This property under,
Zoned commercial.
okay. But the rest of it is zoned,
Mary can answer that question.
So when you look here, everything that's in the pinkish mauve color is commercial. The residential is the yellow portion. And this is not dissimilar to other areas of town, like along Bethel. We have it where along Denton Tap, it's commercial, and then you go down further east on Bethel, and then it turns into residential. So this is not unique situation.
But the residential is in a technically commercial area, zoned commercial. The yellow.
The yellow is residential.
Okay, it is residential. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. So it's okay to have commercial vehicles parked along Howe 24 hours a day?
If they agree not to park there, that's a decision for them. I cannot make them move their trailers if they park it on their property or next to their property. Because parking on the street is legal too, unless the police department decide not to.
So Mr. Raheel is referring to right here where they have their garage. They were parked here on their driveway with the trailers.
And that's legal.
Gotcha, okay.
But they could legally park on Howe, is what I'm hearing. I may be wrong, but.
You know, every now and then the public work departments, the police department decide to make some streets like one side parking and the other is no parking on it, like we did on which one we did recently?
Canyon.
Canyon, we did them on other streets, so if council and y'all decide to make that suggestion, that's up to Mary and Cole.
But Howell is being designed as a residential street, 28-foot back-to-back curb. So 27 feet of pavement, less effective width, people are parking off. So in effect, it's going to be a lot more narrow. So if there's any type of commercial type vehicle or truck pulling a trailer.
So trailer on the street are allowed to park for less than 48 hours. Right? On the driveway, they could park as long as they want to. It's not something we can enforce.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to make sure whatever decision we make that
Sure.
we can enforce or not enforce.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we have the ability to enforce it.
Since you're a code officer, I know it's an existing use, but that building on the property line is driving me nuts. And I know it's an existing use, whether it's grandfathered or what, I don't know, but are there concerns with this from a code perspective?
Not that pertain to this case.
Been there forever.
Yeah.
So is the building actually grandfathered in some form? Is there documentation to that, or?
I haven't looked into that.
I guess the question is, how do you know it's okay to be there?
So what we're trying to do is with this PD conditions, we're looking at what the setback requirements are. Obviously, it's an existing building, so we're trying to incorporate allowing it to remain, and that's why the setback for that portion of the lot is 0.
Right.
Otherwise, they'd have to move it, whatever it was, 20 feet or so, which essentially, like I said, that lot is only 75 by like 135, I think. There's not a lot of movement that can happen.
None at all.
So we looked at several different iterations of the building, putting the building, and this was the best that we came up with in terms of, like I showed you the other one, it would essentially be a totally concrete. And then they still wouldn't have access to, park the trailers.
But Mary, to be clear, it's the best solution that could be configured, assuming that the building, the existing building is there.
But it doesn't matter, because like any building that you put on there, any type of business would require some type of variance.
So from experience, it's hard when you try to design from up there. So right now for us, I'm just telling you the challenges we have. So if you approve it and people complain because you're parking in a driveway, that's not something we can enforce. So as designed, we cannot enforce parking there.
So I think you guys are talking about two different things. Mr. Raheel is talking about them parking on the driveway.
On the drive, but
in front of the existing building, whereas you're talking parking on the street.
Yeah, my question was related to parking on Howe.
if they park on Howe, like usually police department give them 48 hours before they have to move it.
Would that be true if the parcel was just zoned for office use, period?
It's commercial.
There's no distinction?
No, I don't believe so. It's commercial. It's still commercial use. The function might be different, but the zoning is commercial.
Sorry about the cross-examination here, but thank you very
okay.
much.
It's okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Cole again, I think.
We're going to get some
Why-
exercise here.
Why don't I ask my question first, so you don't have to come all the way up just to get.
I'm happy to give you the mic, Cole. Come on.
So the one person had concerns, the adjacent business owner, about these trees blocking their
Site view.
Right, when
Site
they
triangle.
turn out onto Southwestern. So has any study been done about that?
While he's coming up, typically if there's a clearance like above from 18 inches to a certain height, if that's clear, then generally that's okay.
So all the proposed trees are set back behind the sidewalk, and that sidewalk is 20 feet off of the
So there'll be enough storage.
southwestern curb. So there's at least 20 feet that car can pull up in front of those trees. So there's no concern from our side about that.
Okay, thanks.
We'll save another question for you once you get seated.
Okay.
Thank you, Cole.
Appreciate it.
Okay. I would like the applicant to come back down. I have a couple of follow-on questions for him. So it's really more, as we heard testimony from area residents regarding current operations, dump trucks, gooseneck trailers, and it kind of leads to my concern at the outset of the two slots in the back. It's going to be very difficult to park some of those trailers
No,
there,
it will not be.
according to,
According
okay.
to, I've been doing this for 37 years, but according to all of the parking requirements and maneuvering of these types of trailers, there's plenty of room.
Okay, so
That has been tested.
Okay, with auto turn, things like
Yep.
that? So it's in theory, whether in practice it
theory, it's
happens,
fact that
yeah,
that'll
okay.
work.
And the kinds of trucks, dump trucks, is that going to be anticipated to continue on this site?
You know, I
And-
was unaware, and I'm not sure there ever was a dump truck there, but those trailers that go back there are typically on site doing work. And they're not there, and they're certainly not loaded with 5,000 pounds of debris. If they're parked there, they're probably empty. So, I take exception to thinking that that's not maneuverable, because it certainly is.
I'm just trying to get a handle of what's going on currently day to day, and a lot of the stuff is boiling to the garage or the shed, and just things are just feeling it's intense. The intensity, even though office is a lighter intensity use, just the fact of the garage there in the trucks, those kinds of things, would you be opposed to site conditions restricting if it is, and I guess I could generically say trucks, but I'm talking about the larger, whatever dump trucks being restricted from site as a condition
Yeah, I
of
think that
development?
would certainly be doable.
And that would be, and I don't even know what kind of class the box type trailer trucks are, but
Both of the owners have pickup trucks, so those will be two pickup trucks there. And those box trailers that most of the time will be on site somewhere else. The warehouse is nothing but a storage warehouse. There's no construction operation going in there, no fabrication. I think we're lose sight that this is an office building.
I agree.
Office use.
But as we're considering variances and considering the overall operation of the site, I'm starting to feel a little concerned. And
Is it the warehouse?
no, it's and you explained it, Mary, up front. Y'all looked at it. It's just the Howell Drive, and so with a 28-foot street. And if parking is occurring temporary for kids getting picked up and maybe people are staging in there, that area is going to be a mess. And I don't know if it's a mess currently, but now you put on potentially other, and I'm not saying it's going to be trucks, but the fact that it's there or they're allowable, I can just see things being very tight.
Well, the parking area for the people in the building, I mean, we're down to
Yeah,
our limited
yeah,
amount.
that's
So
covered.
if somebody was going to park the truck there, they would be blocking anyone from
Yeah.
parking in the parking space. But if there was restrictions saying that you can't park a dump truck there, then we'd certainly be open to that.
And restrictions of parking along your side of Howell Street.
Well, of any commercial vehicle, I think that if there's a customer or a client coming in, they certainly have the opportunity to
Yeah,
park there.
and they may be pulling a box trailer too, so it's hard to say.
Mary, I don't remember a box trailer ever being out in the street. And were we notified of that? I know there's been some pallets out there.
There was at least 2 gooseneck-looking trailers. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. But I remember I did contact Mr. Diddick and ask him to move them.
Okay.
You know, I think it's a handsome building. I think it's appropriate for that site. It's certainly an improvement to the weeds that grow out there now. We purposely moved the building, not only to make the building more operational, but we moved it so that it screens part of that warehouse. I mean, we want to be the good neighbors.
Yeah.
But we need to be operational.
Sure. Any other questions of the applicant? Oh, no? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the public hearing's been closed. Any conversation, any discussion?
Yeah, so Mary, and fellow commissioners, my concern is on because the property is being redeveloped, I can understand the grandfathering of the shed in the back when the property is not being developed. But now that it's being redeveloped, I'm concerned about the shed staying on the property. Now, I understand the changes of the setbacks to be able to develop the property, but the shed remaining gives me a lot of pause because it is being redeveloped as part of it.
Ken?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo what Ed is saying, but also in addition to that, I mean, if the site, look, I'm struggling to try to figure out on behalf of the applicant how to make this work, okay? Because it's a parcel, they've got a decent design for an office building, but given the type of construction company that it is in terms of reclamation, and the use of trailers and the intensity of commercial vehicles, trucks and box trailers and whatever else needing to operate their company, I'm concerned about the intensity of that use. If it were just office and the office building was supporting their operations, then fantastic, I'd approve this right now. But since that doesn't seem to be the case, they want to use that storage building, and they want to try to put trailers back in there, and obviously they've been parking trailers in front of that building, in front of the storage building. I have a lot of concern about it. So I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can help this applicant approve this thing with the appropriate conditions that would protect the neighbors.
Any other discussion? We've closed the public hearing.
I just want to show you a photograph.
Mary, do you have those photographs that were sent to you?
I sent them to her.
Is there any way that we can get those up on screen?
Give me a couple minutes.
Or if you can pass your phone down. Is there any discussion by the commission? Sir, I'm sorry, the public hearing is closed.
My thought on this is that this may be the only way you can use this land. And what is on that land has been used this way for decades. I would vote to approve it. It's an improvement with an office building on grass. And it's a public street. You get to park there. And the law is that you can park there, vehicles or trucks. It's a commercial area. It is unfortunate for residents behind this area to deal with the problem. But there are lots of areas in the city where you've got residential areas near commercial. And it's unfortunate, but commercial areas are required. Anyway, I'm in favor of allowing the design that.
I see the dilemma that's been created by, you know, the address is Southwestern and not Howell. And I get it, you know, we will have a couple of driveways right after Howell. You know, I was asking the question earlier about shared driveway. That's obviously not something that can work. But I just, I'm concerned from the residential perspective, and I get it. This is commercial. Yeah. And I get that the applicant is trying to make something work. Obviously, some alternate scenarios and discussions been, but we're contemplating variances because it's a difficult site. And there was a great comment from the public about, you know, variances back there in the residential. You know, they can't have it. Why do these guys get it? And so, you know, I'm just.
They own commercial land.
So I'm struggling with this one, quite honestly. So.
I think everybody's struggling.
Yeah. Okay. Any other final deliberations, Sue?
I'll deliberate.
Sure.
I guess I see both sides of it. I see the resident side of it, and I see the owner side of it. So it's kind of a quandary. But maybe when we, I don't know, I have a couple different thoughts. One, I'll just get out of the way real quick because it's been bothering me since he mentioned it, is if there's already a restroom on site, does the city already have a sewer and water tap and service to this site?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So the city's already been supporting this use for years.
So according to my little helpers, the metal building had a permit for a half bath in 1985, 1982 electrical permit on the welding shop garage.
So this was an acceptable use since 1985 for the garage area. So I don't know that I have a big problem or issue with it remaining, especially because it's adjacent to, according to this site plan, an existing alleyway, even though it's not being used as an alleyway. The second thing is I think I agree with Commissioner Portman that this is the least invasive use for this property. Otherwise, this property will never get developed if we don't, I mean, and it's the right of the property owner to be able to develop their property with an office use in an industrial area. So I'm not opposed to that. And, but one thing we might want to consider as a commission is maybe if we restrict, you know, approve it, but with restricting it with not having the trailers on site. But anyway, that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Sue. You know,
Disjointed, as they
so, and thanks for the timeline there, Mary, 82, 85, whatever that is. But now let's flash forward 40 years. Now the context of the area. We've got residential development, we got not heavier, we got industrial development on the other side of Southwestern, we got school going on. And I get it, this is a very difficult site, but I'm also thinking about quality of life for those residents. And I see Howell being a sticking point. Only because of the design of the street, a residential street, 27, 28 foot. So to me, I'm thinking more context in the impact of this development. So,
I have one other question, sir.
fire away.
So, Mary, I understand the constraints of the site, and again, I'm trying to figure out with the applicant to try to figure out how to make this work, and still mitigate the concerns of the neighbors. Was a site plan considered without the warehouse building in the back?
We did, at the beginning of our conversations, ask if they were looking to tear that down, and they would prefer that it stay there because they had a use for it.
Because it was already an existing use.
Yep.
Okay. Any final discussion? Is there a motion?
Just to.
Oh, sorry. Ed?
Follow up on that. So just to reiterate my concern, I get that it was an existing use from the 80s, but this is a new PD, and I think that this is when we should consider whether or not these structures should stay or not. I mean, this is really the time to do it, because once it's part of the PD, then it's an allowable use. And so I certainly wanted to be able to see the property developed, but there just may be too many uses on the property, or too much activity on the property. Not saying it in the right words, but they're trying to put too much on the property in terms of the development. And so, I mean, I think this is the time to consider it, and because in other cases where if there are other cases that come up, we have considered this in the past of existing structures and whether they should stay or not.
Thank you for that. Any final discussion or a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that PD 317C, Greystone Construction Building, Lot 2, North Lake Estates, a zoning change request from C Commercial to PD 317C, Plan Development 317 Commercial, be approved as submitted with staff conditions.
Okay, before there's a second, I have totally forgotten about Commissioner Guerra. Freddie, if you're still up there, are there any comments you might have?
No, I agree with the majority of my colleagues. I guess my concern too is really the trailers. I think if there's a way to mitigate that, where they just park behind the warehouse. Because the way I see it too, like this use has been, it's been going on for a while. I don't like the fact that, it seems to conflict with the surrounding community. But, like I said, just looking at the property, I think this is the best fit, but just figuring out how we would mitigate the issues with the trailers.
Okay. Thank you there, Freddie. So we have a motion by Commissioner Portman. Does your motion still stand?
Still stands?
Motion still stands. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Portman, a second by Commissioner Blankenship. Ashley, would you call the roll?
Okay, please respond by saying aye or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship?
Aye.
Commissioner Guerra?
Nay.
Nay? Is that what you said?
Yes, correct, nay.
Okay, I apologize. It was just a little. Chairman Haas?
Nay.
Vice Chairman Portman?
Aye.
Commissioner Maurer?
Nay.
Commissioner Haithman?
Nay.
Commissioner Bishop?
Aye.
Okay, the motion fails 4-3.
So that means we have some more work to do here because the motion failed. Oh, is the
Motion fails, applicant appeals to council.
Okay.
Or another motion.
All right, procedurally, Mary, help me. This motion failed. That means it's subject to another discussion. Continued discussion, sorry. Or is it done?
I think we're done unless you have some other motion.
Yeah, I think we can make another motion.
Okay, I recall that we have done it before. If the motion fails, that we continue dialogue and there's, okay, is there another motion to the proposed case as presented?
All right, I will make another motion. Considering modification of PD 317-C Greystone Construction Building Lot 2, subject to staff conditions, with the amendment of removing the structure in the rear of the property as a additional modification.
Okay.
And restriction of trailers.
And restriction, second amendment as a restriction of parking the trailers on site.
So we have a motion, we have a new motion by Commissioner Maurer. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Hafman. Ashley, would you call the roll?
Okay, please respond by saying yea or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship?
Nay.
Commissioner Guerra?
Aye.
Chairman Haas?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Portman?
Nay.
Commissioner Maurer?
Aye.
Commissioner Haithman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bishop?
Nay.
Okay, the motion carries.
Okay.
Sorry, 4-3.
The applicant has the right to appeal to council with supermajority. To all those that came out and provided some input to the public process, thank you very much. Your input's very valid. That's what we're here for. That's what we need to hear as part of discussion, both sides, whether it's on for or against, but thank you for your time today. Item 9 on the agenda was an update on city council. We reviewed those in pre-session, so we're good there. Mary, any final comments or on the update to council?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 10 is adjournment. Unless there's any other items there, I'll adjourn the meeting. The time is, I can't read that, 8:09. Okay.